Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Mock School. Here I am again with another video on test planning and test strategy. Like the previous time, we are doing this video in the same format, where it's more of a recording from one of my mock interviews with the Amazon QA aspirant. So this is a pretty detailed interview from which I have taken a 30 minutes clip, which specifically talks about test plan and test strategy. So please go through it. Like my last video, I'm not putting any checklist around how do you prepare for test plan or test strategy. What are those key sections that should be part of it? Because if I put that, then people will just look at that checklist and try to use it in their answers. But it's not the checklist, it's not the section, it's how you put it out, the context you provide for actually including that particular section in the test plan or test strategy holds more importance than just iterating the number of sections which are present in a test plan. So that's why intentionally I'm not putting any kind of list of sections um, uh, in the description or anywhere in the video. So I sincerely urge you all, if you really want to understand what a good test plan and the test strategies, and then what's the right way of putting it across to the interviewer, then do watch the complete video. It's a 30 minutes clip, which is an interactive discussion with one of the aspirant, where I've covered different aspects of why something is there, what's the need of having different sections in a test strategy and test plan, when do you actually create them, and then what's the benefit of it. As you all know, I have a micro startup still called mockschool.com, where I'm helping candidates to prepare for Amazon and other product-based company QA interviews. Till now, I've kind of coached uh, 14 aspirants, and I've taken 40 plus mock interviews, out of which 11 aspirants have gone through Amazon, one through Google, and two through other startups. So it does help candidates. So if you want to try it out, do visit mockschool.com, and I'll be happy to help you out. So see you on the other side of the 30 minutes clip that's coming in.
So there are two things: test plan and test strategy. Um, Test strategy is mainly created for a bigger project. Okay, and test plans are created for individual pieces of those projects. By individual pieces, I mean they could be incremental feature deliveries inside one project. Inside one big project, you might do an incremental delivery, right? So suppose if we talk about, suppose we need to do PayPal integration on our payments page.
Right.
Okay, so it might be that the whole blanket would be called PayPal integration project, but under it there would be some incremental deliveries that first we'll integrate with credit card and debit card payment systems inside PayPal landing page, right? So that's what we'll support, right? After that, we'll move to certain kind of wallets or something else, right? So so in the first delivery, we'll just focus on one set of cards. In the second delivery, we'll focus on something else. So these individual pieces will have their own test plans, okay, because they would be tested independently, and then they'll be signed off and they'll be pushed to production, right? But as a whole, they come as a part of a blanket project, okay, which is PayPal integration. So that's where there is a difference between test strategy and test plan. Test strategy is written for an entire project, and test plan is written for specific features that are being pushed out incrementally.
Got it. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we come to what do we actually write in them. Okay. So first of all, there is one thing that you follow something theoretically, and practically the things work very differently. Not in every project, every feature you write a test plan or you write a test strategy. There is no company in the world which follows it to the point. Okay, it eventually boils down to what's the criticality, what's the urgency, how proficient is the QA working on it, how much time or bandwidth he or she has to write it, to review it, to fix it, and to go as per that. So there are hundreds of factors that determine whether you will be able to write a proper test strategy or not. But if this is something, if this is followed judiciously, then it helps uncover a lot of blind spots which you might not see upfront when you are planning for something. When you write things down in a certain manner, in a certain format, in certain section, there are a lot of things that get uh, discovered which you don't find otherwise. So that's why it's generally a good practice to write these strategies, involve all the relevant stakeholders, get their sign off so that everyone is on board on what you think is the best way to test a particular piece of project or a product, right?
Okay.
So that's why it's a good practice.
Mm-hmm.
Now coming to what test strategy look like. So there are few common sections between test plan and test strategy, and then there are few specific sections for both
Okay.
strategy and test plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everything starts with in scope and out of scope. Okay.
Okay.
Like
Mm-hmm.
whatever we are writing, first of all, what is in scope? Like what I need to consider as part of my testing umbrella and what sits outside of it. Okay, so that's
Mm-hmm.
very important to identify as part of both strategy and test plan. Okay, why for strategy? Because if it's a PayPal integration, if you remember the other day we were talking about would you test PayPal landing page or not? Right? Will you be able to
Mm-hmm.
test it over and over again? No, you will not be able to test it because that falls outside of your testing program. Right? So your
Yeah.
test strategy would explicitly call out. In scope is the first time integration with PayPal. Out of scope is the repetitive or whatever proper naming you want to put it, incremental
Mm-hmm.
testing of the PayPal landing page with every PayPal release. Okay, we are
Correct.
not responsible for
Mm-hmm.
it. Okay, so
Right.
in scope and out of scope items for a complete project perspective, it will come. Okay,
Uh-huh.
similarly, like do we support part and part payment, like part by wallet and part by PayPal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part by
Yes. Yes.
Amazon Pay wallet and part by PayPal. So is this supported or not as part of this project? If we say no, it's just purely PayPal integration. The complete payment needs to be done by it. Then yeah, so then
Mm.
that's in scope, and out of scope is any other partial payment integration. Okay,
Okay.
so
Got
you're
it.
getting my point, right? So we need to
Right.
be upfront clear that
Mm.
what we are planning for. Okay,
Right.
now
Yes.
so I'll go parallelly side by side with test plan. Okay,
Yeah.
now in
I'm
test
also
plan, if you
writing. Yeah. I'm right.
yeah,
Taking notes.
sure,
Mm.
sure. So now in test plan you come. So in test plan, suppose you are writing test plan for that credit card integration. Okay, that
Mm-hmm.
we are integrating with PayPal, where we'll only allow payments via credit card on payment PayPal landing page. Okay, so now you will write a very specific test plan there, where you might say that in scope are Visa and Mastercard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
any testing with diners or rupee, which is specific to India, but different kind of card types, this is not supported. Okay, so that's out of scope.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's just one example, but that's how you come up with the in scope and out of scope items.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which are very specific to that feature. So strategy will also have in scope and out of scope, and test plan will also have in scope and out of scope.
Okay.
So these two things come at the very beginning. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where a lot of time disagreements happen between business, product, and QA,
Okay.
where business by default assume that is something which will be part of testing purview, but they don't look from the tester eyes, because even with a small addition of a new card type, it it brings up tons of test cases.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
like to test a Discover card or Diners card, that means you need to work with PayPal if there is some issue that is found, right? Or there might be some backend integration with that payment system which you might need to take care of, or you will need to set up a sandbox environment if you are working with payment testing, because you cannot test everything in production, right? So
Mm.
that will add one level more complexity. Now you have to set up the sandbox environment for this card as well
Mm-hmm.
to support testing. So each small addition brings tons of work for us. Okay, for
Correct.
QA.
Yes.
So that's where it becomes essential that you upfront call it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now moving on test strategy, you talk about high level resource planning. high level timelines, and the Uber risk and mitigation plan.
Okay. The last one I didn't get. The
Risk,
risk was
risk and mitigation.
risk and mitigation. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so what I mean is, let's start with risk. The Uber risk for this project is I might test everything, and at the end, somehow we don't get the RBI nod. So here the governing authority is RBI in India. I'm not really sure about US, but whoever is that authority X, they don't
Hmm.
approve of it. Okay,
Okay.
maybe they don't allow Amazon to integrate with PayPal and use Visa card for payment. Okay, because for each kind of payment integration, you need the government authority to sign it off that yeah, you are well, you are allowed to use this payment type to, to to make users use it. Right? So
Hmm.
so these are some external factors that might hamper your project. Okay, and a delay in sign off from these authorities might delay your complete project. Okay,
Correct.
so
Okay.
this becomes a risk which is not very much in your control. Okay,
That's correct. Yes.
but now you cannot just go and say that hey, this is not in my control, so I can't do anything about it. No, you can still do something about it where you identify these risks at the very starting point, and then you work with those regulatory authorities in parallel, like you or whoever is the responsible person. You make them aware that we need to work on this, and then you need to parallelly work with those authorities to get the sign off by the time the development and testing complete.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one mitigation plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, um, there could be other mitigation plans like worst case, what happens if we don't get this approval? Like, so let's not upfront commit to any launch date to the stakeholders, because if we are not able to address this risk, then our stakeholders would still be waiting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So better to make it as an internal launch only for internal Amazon customers to use it, so that even if worst case it gets delayed, it just inside the Amazon the people are getting impacted. We never called it outside of Amazon that hey, we are launching a new payment
Okay.
integration.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there could be a number of ways to mitigate anything, and these might not be the only way which I am telling. Okay, it depends from project to project. It depends on how wide or out of the box you think that how can I mitigate this particular problem. Okay,
Okay.
so these are the risks. So this risk is the Uber project level risk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where regulatory approvals you don't get, or suppose like now there can be a resource based risk. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you are in middle of pandemic, and
Mm-hmm.
then you see that there is a high risk that going by how Omicron variant is going,
Yes.
there might be a cases that people might start to fall sick, and this delays the project. Okay,
Correct.
so we foresee risk in that, and you upfront call it out. Okay, for which you don't really have a mitigation plan. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that if they fall sick, they fall sick. Now I might try to poach resources from some other project, but then it'll impact their project. Then something has to get impacted if resources are not there to work. But you upfront call it out that this is a risk to this project. A mitigation plan is only either we wait it out this particular period to get over, to get a good control of when we launch it, or we just go by it. Like these are the risks where you don't have a definitive answer, and you try to
Okay.
bring business in it. Okay, that
Mm-hmm.
you call out that hey, this is a risk, and now I'm here to talk to you about how do we mitigate it, because this is more of a business or a engineering manager problem. How do we
Mm-hmm.
de-risk it?
Yeah.
Okay, so these things which I am giving you are more project level, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
when you come to test plan, they'll also have risk. Okay, risk would be more around what if I don't have a um, sandbox environment setup, or I cannot test with a Visa card in my sandbox environment, my testing environment,
Correct. Correct. Yes.
right? So I'm not able to set up proper test systems, or again it could be internal risk that the person who is supposed to work on it, and they are not proficient with payment integration testing. Okay, and there
Mm-hmm.
is an onboarding curve involved. okay, for
Correct.
which we'll be taking them through some kind of because you are creating this strategy or test plan, right? It might be there are few more people working on it along with you, or you might
Correct.
or you might be the only resource working on it. It could be either way, but you upfront call it out that you are the only person that I have not worked on it, and there is a learning curve involved for me, where I would need some mentorship on this or some kind of training that how to go about this, which will add additional time for testing and
Got
eventually
it.
the sign off, right? So this is
Mm-hmm.
the risk to the project, but we have a mitigation plan that we can start with my training or the team's training or whatever is the relevant training required at the very
Mm-hmm.
starting of the project when the developers are just starting to develop. So that's how you
Got
prioritize stuff. Okay,
it.
that's
Mm-hmm.
how you identify that what we need to work at the very start of the project. Okay, this is a very typical question that how will you plan launch of this project? That what would you start with first? Again, people usually start with okay, maybe I'll start with writing functional test cases. I'll also start by automating them in parallel, or they'll say we'll start by writing test strategy and test plan, but nothing more than that. Okay,
Mm.
along with those test strategy, once you have identified these risks, you have to work in parallel to address these risks. So it cannot
Correct.
be you take sweet amount of time to finish these risk strategies, get them signed off, and now you're happy that hey, I've completed everything. No, the risk
Mm.
which you identified, the mitigation plan itself said that you need to work on it proactively, and now we are almost at the end of the development cycle, and then you are working on those mitigation plans. So that's not right, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these risks are something which needs to be addressed urgently or proactively.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So they come on both the level, on strategy level for a complete project, on test plan level for a further feature. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then strategy specifically talks about resource planning.
Mm.
Okay, that how many resources would be working on this project. Suppose 3 resources would be working dedicatedly on this project. This is their skill set, and then they'll be available for the complete period of time, okay, or whatever x amount of time. Okay, sometimes it's like that one resource is available for x by 2 amount of time, the half of the project time, and then the later there will be some other resource will be coming in. Okay, so it all depends between the team's dynamics, with the team who is working on this. But
Yeah.
essentially, you need to plan for the resource, that who will be working on it, for how long you'll be they'll be working on it, and then if there are any exceptions that someone is leaving or someone is available for a certain amount of time only, then how do you de-risk it?
Mm-hmm.
What's the other resource you have on standby? Okay, so you upfront call it out to the stakeholders that these many people will be working on it. Okay, and this is something, resource planning is not something which you can do independently. You need your manager support because he or she is the one who is managing people, like, so they'll be having the upfront clarity that which person is available to work on this project, and then they'll tell you that yeah, you can consider this person, and based on those amount of resources,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you will move to the next section, which is timeline.
So
Okay.
I have a
Yeah.
question here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this strategy, either test strategy or test plan,
Hmm.
is a QA resource is supposed to work on it or a QA
Yes.
manager?
So usually strategy test plan is definitely QA, and strategy, if it's usually it's expected from a lead QA.
Okay.
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 Usually strategies are developed by lead QAs. They are not created by managers.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Strategies are never created by, these are by lead QAs or the high QA2s or QA3s in Amazon, right?
Okay.
So it's a responsibility of lead QA to identify these different sections. Obviously, you don't have to work in silos.
Mm-hmm.
You can reach out to manager for help. Can reach out to some other senior QA for some guidance, but it has to be primarily driven by you. You can take definitely help from anyone
Good.
within the
Okay.
organization,
Yes. Yes.
but the ownership is on lead QA who is leading on that project.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so when we are talking about resources, that takes us to the next section of timeline.
Good.
Now, obviously, if I say that I have a project which is a quarter long or 6 months long, on the day
Mm-hmm.
one, I cannot give you timeline, right? That when I'll do what. It's virtually impossible for anyone.
Correct.
Okay. But what is expected in the strategy is that on a very high level, you first had a discussion with all the business and the product counterparts about what this project is. Okay, what
Mhm.
are the different components of this project?
Mhm.
Okay, and then you try to do a very high level T-shirt sizing. Okay,
Mhm.
where okay, if as part of this payment integration, we just need to support only credit card and debit card integration in PayPal. Okay,
Yes.
and then we just need to launch them incrementally. First, we'll go by debit card and then by credit card. So now you have two individual modules which you need to release. So then you'll try to do some T-shirt sizing that okay, maybe these will be the different testing tabs that will be involved in this testing, in testing these features, and approximately these many weeks will be required to test this stuff. Okay, a very high level approximation. It can go on and off by 10 to 15%. That is fine. Okay,
Okay.
but
Mhm.
you come up with a milestone based delivery
Mhm.
timeline. So what you
Yeah.
say is that based on the two resources I have,
Mhm.
based on the build is handed over to you by suppose 1st of January. So if the build is handed over to me by 1st of January for the milestone one, okay,
Yes.
I expect to take 5 weeks of time to push to prod. Okay, so start is the build handoff to QA, and the end is push to production.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so that's the start date and that's the end date. So these are the two
Mhm.
dates which people are mostly interested, and you have given these dates on certain assumptions. So that's the next section which comes, that what are the assumptions you have made. The assumptions you have made is that the build handoff is by 1st of January. The two resources are available full time to work on this project. The learning curve or the appropriate training or mentorship is in place before the build handoff is given. So all those assumptions you'll write. And once all those assumptions, your test environment is set up and ready. Okay, all those
Yes.
assumptions are if fulfilled, then these are the dates by these are the rough timelines by when you will be able to push this code to production.
Okay.
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 So
Yes.
in timelines, you just give for milestone one, this is the start, this is the end date. For milestone two, this is the start, this is the end date. The more granular details or dates you cannot give as of now because you know you have not come up with a test plan.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
But there, that's where you call the assumptions. The assumptions are these 7, 8, 9, 10 points of laundry.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. And and that's where you go with these assumptions to the stakeholders when you are reviewing the strategy, and then that's where they sign off that hey, the thing
Mhm.
which you have assumed, maybe your engineering manager would object that hey, I'm not really sure if I'll be able to provide you two resources full time. Then that's where the
Okay.
discussion starts. Or the business
Mhm.
might say that, or the dev manager will say that yeah, build end up on 1st January is unrealistic because people will be on leave, so we will not be able to give you before 10th of Jan or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
so people will start commenting or countering it, and that's where your strategy will further refine. But that's the whole objective of strategy, to start those meaningful conversations. That if someone
Mhm.
has any conflict or someone has any pushback, they bring it out upfront while reviewing the test strategy.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, these are the major parts of a test strategy. Okay, in
Yes.
scope, out of scope, resources, timelines, risk, mitigation, and test environment
Yes.
could be one more thing. And uh, so yeah, see, these are the total test strategy sections. In test plan, another, so now coming to test plan, in scope, out of scope is definitely there. Risk and mitigation is also there. Then automation is also an important part.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Like in many companies, like Amazon as well, like in majority of the companies, automation is given a very strong preference that you don't sign off anything until you have automated the test cases, right? So automation section also comes into picture that by this date, uh,
Mhm.
like we'll be working on automation and we'll be needing Selenium to do UI automation or whatever is your automation strategy, you upfront call it out. And if you have any leadership ask there, right? If you want something that hey, maybe there is this new thing for like security is coming into picture, and then we have never worked on security automation, if there is any automation involved or not. So there's something on which we might need mentorship.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so you call out. So you call out what will be the different type of automation you will do, and then you from call out that there will be part of the scope. Like you will not be able to provide your sign off until the automation is done.
Okay.
Okay,
So
and then
this is
yeah,
in all projects. So
yeah. So
is it part
it's in
of?
all each feature in each milestone delivery, like whatever test plans you create,
Mm-hmm.
it'll be for each. Automation should be part of each test plan. Now,
Okay.
ideally,
Mhm.
there should be one test plan per milestone, but a lot of times people club the test plans, all the milestone, and then they just create a single test plan because there is so much common things in each of the test plan that it does not make really sense to create different test plans.
Okay.
Okay, so that depends on project to project where people might have just one test strategy and then one test plan. Okay, where
Mhm.
in test plan they'll create just small sections that for milestone one, if there is any specific change, then they'll just call it out under that heading. Rest all common things remain as it is.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so it really depends on the nature of the project. If those two milestones are drastically different, then you might need a different test plan. So again, it goes by project.
Okay.
So yeah, so when you are talking about automation, you call and then you include this automation as part of your timeline as well. So in test plan, the timelines would be more granular.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
where you will talk about that when will the first round of testing, will be the second round of testing, when is the UAT planned. So UAT
Right.
is usually something which is initiated by QA for the product or the business to see what you have developed, and then they provide a sign off right
Mm-hmm.
before it's launched to the end customer. So that's
Yes.
something which you drive. So you have to put a UAT date that by this date we'll
Mm-hmm.
do a UAT, user acceptance testing, and then post that we'll launch.
So it's kind of beta testing, right? With
Yeah,
the
it's kind of
real,
beta testing.
yeah,
Yes.
with real users.
Yeah, with real users.
Okay. Okay.
But those are internal stakeholders only.
Yes. Yes. So
So yeah.
one second, Kapil. Actually, I just want to confirm with you. The points I have written for test planning are in scope, out scope planning, and in scope and out scope, and resource planning and
No, no,
automation.
no, no, no. Resource planning is not there in test plan.
Okay, this is not required. Okay, okay.
No. No.
So again, but risk and mitigation we need to
Yes, 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 yes,
and timeline. So
yes,
again, automation need to be included in that
yes,
timeline.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
And
And
then
anything I missed there?
yes, in test plan, the most important thing is testing type.
Okay. Testing type. Okay.
What all different kinds of testing you will do. So suppose you say you do functional testing, you write functional testing, and then test plan also contains the test cases.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You will give the test cases. So either you
Mm-hmm.
write the test cases on the same test plan, or usually people give a link to the test case repository, whatever you have, test trail or any kind of repository if your organization has for test cases,
Yes.
you give a link to that.
Okay.
So testing type and test cases. That's
Yeah.
the meat of the test plan, where stakeholders, mainly product counterpart or business counterpart, they will come and review the test case.
Got it. Yes.
So test cases, testing types, and the each testing type, what will be the test case? That's why test plan creation takes time
Yes. Yes.
because test cases, coming up with test cases, writing them, documenting them takes time. And then it's not like on the very first go you will be able to identify all the test cases, right? So
Right.
now, which brings me to the next point is when do you create these strategies or plans, right? So strategies created at the very starting when you understood the project on a high level, when a product or business gave you a demo that this is how a product will look through mock-ups or different things, where you have sufficient idea that what we are building and for whom is it for, who is our end customer, what we are building, and how the experience will look like, maybe
Mm-hmm.
through mock-ups. Okay, once you have that much clarity, that's where the developer starts on developing, and you start with test strategy.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And
Yeah.
once you have created the strategy in whatever X amount of time, you get it reviewed with the stakeholders. And after that, you start with the test plan. for the
So,
very first milestone which we'll be working on.
Kapil, I have a question here
Yeah.
again. For this example, Amazon with the payment integration with
Hmm.
PayPal, who will be the actual stakeholders? Is it like PayPal?
No.
Ah,
So PayPal, we are just using PayPal. PayPal is not
yeah,
a
we are
stakeholder.
using it. Yes,
Yeah, they are just payment gateway. The actual stakeholder is the internal stakeholder is the product team who
product
came
team.
up, yeah, who came up with this integration proposal that we need to
Correct.
integrate it due to there could be some X amount of metrics they need to move. They need to bring new customers who are loyal to PayPal, or they want to create more traction in terms of, because people are dropping off when they are coming to Amazon checkout page because they don't see PayPal integration and then they are pretty used to it, right? So there
Yeah.
might be an amount of reasons why product team has proposed to do this, right? So
Okay.
eventually they becomes our end customer, not end customer, the UAT customer. That if they feel that yeah, the experience which we have built is good enough, then they sign off that yeah, it's good enough to be launched to production. So
So
it's
it's
product team.
again, yeah, it's again internal team only.
Yeah, so it's an internal Amazon product team,
Mhm.
and then once it's successful, a product team plus any other stakeholder, like there could be directors as well, like, so you need to identify the stakeholder. Mainly those are the managers, product team, or the directors,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
right? So how this works is usually you set up a UAT date. Product is a sure shot a customer of you, like who sign off you should get, and then you send out a broader email to all the relevant stakeholders that hey, this is the day when we are planning the demo, and whoever is interested can join the meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is how it's done, so that whoever really is interested in this launch and then it impacts them, then they'll join and provide their feedback. Okay, but the Uber, the most important customer would the product itself.
Yes. Mhm. Got
Okay.
it.
So yeah, so you give these granular uh, uh, timelines in terms of
Mhm.
different rounds of testing and when the automation will start, when the automation sign off date, and when the final push to production date.
Okay.
Okay. With these things, yeah, you'll be done with the very first test plan. You cannot create test plan for all the milestones ahead in future, right? You can just work uh, milestone by milestone before the start of each milestone.
Yeah.
You create
Probably.
these test plans.
Yeah. Probably for further milestones, I just have to work with the test scenarios only.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh,
Mainly
okay.
you'll have to work on test plans
Yeah. And the timeline.
and test.
Yeah.
And if any risk changes based on the milestone, maybe yeah, like the sections will be same, and the content would change as per what the next
Okay.
milestone is.
Yes, so this brings us to the end of the video. I hope you liked the video, you found the content useful, and you'll be able to use it in your actual interviews. Do comment on the video if you like it, if you see there is a need to improve on the way I'm conducting interviews, or if you have any other suggestion to give. If you find something which I've shared which is not actually right, or if you have any feedback on the content which I'm sharing, feel free to provide. Right, that's the only way for me to keep improving and keep helping the candidates in the best way I can. So thank you all for watching the video, and then do comment if what's the next video you want to see. I've covered majority of the QA competencies. There are a few Amazon leadership principles which I'm yet to cover, which will, about which I'll be posting soon. But if there's anything else you want me to cover, feel free to comment, and I'll definitely make a video for it. Thank you. See you all. Bye bye.